Well, top of the evening, everyone, and welcome to this very special War on Christmas and Thanksgiving episode of Truth Noir. Joined here once again for I don't know how manyth time, but joined by Dirk Beecham, and I'm always glad to have him on the show. He made up by not being dressed up for the show by wearing a festive hat, so.
And it makes it okay that I didn't shave or
Yeah,
wear a shirt with a collar.
It's all right. You know, you got that kind of hey, fuck it all sort of attitude that we appreciate here.
It is the Wednesday night before Thanksgiving. It's usually,
So yeah, man. How have you been?
Good. Just went and spent some time down in San Juan Capistrano today to see my brother and the in-laws, and it was good. We had our early Thanksgiving because him and the missus got to work tomorrow, so we had our Thanksgiving dinner tonight, and it was great. And but
nice.
In the afternoon we went, and I got to see a glimpse of the war on Thanksgiving.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because they have this new shopping mall up in the hills right near the beach, and it's brand new, and of course, when I went in there to different shops, they're all like, "Yeah, we got to be open tomorrow." And I think they're going to open, I don't know what time, 8 or something at night. And,
Tonight?
No, tomorrow night.
Oh, tomorrow
on
night.
Thanksgiving,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
So the war on Thanksgiving is roaring. And then, of course, there's this big call out where a lot of companies didn't want to be open throughout the country on Thanksgiving, but they have to be open if they're in a mall.
Really?
Because they sign contracts that say that the mall tells you when you're open or not. So if you're an REI but you're in a mall, you might have to be open anyway, even if you don't want to be.
Right.
So it's and I'm thinking, well, why what is this? People have to be open, and like I wrote in my Facebook page one time. I said, one of the things the workers can't do on Thanksgiving, and that is, all right. So there's silly things like lay on the couch, rest, talk to their parents, talk to their children, talk to their siblings, talk to the relatives that only come into town on either Thanksgiving and or Christmas. And a lot of times it's more or.
Sure.
So, but do you think the CEOs and the VPs are going to be missing out on that? No, they're going to be doing all those things and more. And they're also going to be drinking a beer, which you can't do at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, because by 8 o'clock you got to be over at the mall.
Right. You can't have a glass of wine with Thanksgiving dinner.
No, boss doesn't want you coming in with a couple of pops in you because, so basically you don't get to relax on Thanksgiving.
No. Well, no, you get to wolf down dinner. You don't get to take your after Thanksgiving dinner nap. You don't get to see the end of the football game.
You don't get to socialize.
Yeah, you go right in and you work, the graveyard shift
and it ain't time and a half either.
Nope.
We're not talking.
Yeah, it's let's see there. I wanted to go back one. I think this was our catalog Thanksgiving Day sale open 7 a.m. was it to 8 p.m. is what it says.
Yeah.
And and this is just it's Dollar General. I don't want to single anyone out. That was just
they're all doing it. Vans, shoe stores, all of them.
They're all kinds of places. Now, what there's and so I think the main crux of our episode that we're getting to is this bullshit war on Christmas, that everyone is
the fictitious war on Christmas.
Yeah, so you argue about this stuff, right? Because Starbucks made the drabby decorated cup because they hate the Jesuses, and you talk about how ridiculous that is, but you say nothing about
why does a worker have to come in on Thanksgiving or Christmas?
Yeah, people having to work through their holiday time with their families.
Yeah.
I'm sure the people that are
for BS Industries. I mean, we're not talking about policemen or firemen or hospitals. These, of course, have to be open on the holidays. But
sure.
But like I said, they're not doing anything important. It's my cure for this. I think every CEO should wear an ankle bracelet, have to spend at least 8 hours of a Thanksgiving or Christmas at his own store before he can go home. And I bet you the next year there'd be nothing open.
Right. Yeah. Well,
That stuff would
it's
nip it in the bud
have you
real
seen
quick.
that show Undercover Boss?
Yeah,
Where
I've seen a few episodes.
and I think
they're nauseating.
reality TV I think is garbage for the very
Yeah,
most part.
and that's one of the garbages.
And this show also, but every once in a while, you'll catch a CEO that forces pretty harsh working conditions on his employees, that goes out and has to then work a day as or a week, I forget what it is, as one of their just regular grunt employees, and they experience firsthand the horrible conditions that they subject their
Yeah.
employees to, and some of them change.
Well,
or,
that's how
you
the
know,
story is, and it shows you that there's a happy ending. But obviously, this must just be just another television show that's scripted, because that's a happy ending that you see on TV. But it's more and more places are going to be open on Thanksgiving.
True.
So obviously,
Yeah.
the show is not really depicting a real CEO, and these CEOs are not ones that really communicate. I mean, they're just an actor pretending like he's turned over a new leaf,
Right.
and that he's sorry for what he did, and there's remorse, and and he gives them all sometimes a bonus, a financial bonus. He doesn't just give them a sorry, which to me would be good enough, but he gives them a financial bonus too. I don't see any of that really playing out in reality. I think that's just another. It would be like Undercover Boss is about as real as Gilligan's Island talking about what it is to be a castaway.
Right. Yeah. You come,
It's-
and I will agree with you there. You come away from watching a show like that with more the impression of, well, then why isn't shit changing? Like,
Yeah.
how many episodes have there been of that show?
Yeah.
And how many CEOs, real or imagined, have gotten, subjected,
Turned over a new leaf.
yeah, subjected to their own nonsense. Why aren't things, and some of these are Fortune 500 companies,
Yeah.
high profit, very big companies in America.
Yeah,
And you
it's.
don't see the change for sure.
I think it's just to make you feel good that someone's watching you, to make the worker out there feel good. But I hate to make them feel bad, but no one's really watching you.
Yeah.
It's just to pacify you and think that don't worry, there'll be a brighter tomorrow. But and now the latest thing is to get back to the real war on Christmas that you didn't hear about. The guy that Kevin James that held the cup up and he says, "Well, I call myself Merry Christmas," so that way they have to say Merry Christmas out loud when they call my name to get my cup.
Yeah, right.
But I never hear this
yeah,
Kevin James lookalike. I thought it was Kevin James, the actor, and not once did he mention, well, Pavilions now and Fresh and Easy and several other supermarkets have started a thing that they haven't done. It's like a very new thing. They used to not be open at all on Christmas. Now they're open regular hours on Christmas.
Right.
What the heck about that? And I don't hear any of my right-wing friends that are all crying about, oh, there's a town where they had to take down the manger, which, by the way, I never believe that there's actually an atheist organization calling City Hall to take down a manger. But we always get that every year. Some town gets on network TV like Channel 4, 2, or 7, and this atheist group, so Atheist United, and it's always a different name, too. It's always a name that I've never heard of. Atheist United, or Atheist for Goodness, or Atheist for, And they demanded we took down the manger. So these protesters came down from this church and they picketed and they got the manger back put up. But no one ever talks about the worker. And by the way, Jesus was blue collar.
Yep. Absolutely.
It shows you that it's a dog and pony show. And the real war on Christmas is never addressed at all.
Well, and it goes back to a thing that you brought up last time when we were talking about cognitive dissonance, and and you brought up the host of non-issues. How you argue about a thing and you argue it into ridiculousness, while not realizing that you're not addressing the problem, which is
or important problems.
that
Really hurt people or help people.
Yeah, and I think that's what this this fucking Starbucks cup represents. Like, while there is a war on Christmas and working people in general, it's not because of this fucking cup. It's because it's because there's guys like that still laying in the street that you don't give a shit about. There's plenty of veterans that stay homeless on the holidays that you do nothing for, that aren't getting the care
By the way,
and services that they need.
who fought those wars, those dirty little wars, which most of them were not there to set up a democracy. They were there to help the rich in some way, and you think the rich would kick them down a little something.
Well,
I'm going off.
My point is that these are people that still went to serve with good intentions, and are getting fucked 9 ways from Sunday much of the time, and certainly are not. There's outreach programs that get a little bit more active on the holidays, but that is still going on.
Yeah, it goes on too much.
In a country where there are more vacant houses now due to the housing bust a few years ago than there are homeless people. You could house every homeless person in America and not spend $1 on new facilities or anything like that. And this still happens. That's the war on Christmas. That's what you should be getting amped up about, not a fucking Starbucks cup. Anyone and any of your politicians who, vote down these measures to help people in need, you should be out in mass getting all pumped up and badass and throwing batteries at them over that.
Yeah.
Not a fucking cup.
Oh, and then there's the riots that happen at these either Black Friday and now there's and that's such a weird name too. Call it Black Friday. Oh my goodness. Well, anyway. So
it's a little dark.
Yeah, it's a little bit PC around there, but anyway. So and there's riots that break out because someone didn't get because there's only so many people. The first 100 people in line get like a Xbox for whatever, $20 or whatever, right. and they get, or you get a free 3 games, which would normally be $50 each, and you get them like free. They have all these incentives so that people will pack up, and then there's fights that break out, but no one's really fighting over should we get that homeless guy a bed, or should we get or the worker who has to stand here, the $9 an hour worker who has to stand there on Thanksgiving night and watch the fight going on, because by the way, we've all worked in retail a little bit, sure. They will turn some of their anger over. You go, well, what the fuck are you looking at? And you're like, I'm just standing here trying to hand out Xboxes. I'm just not.
Yeah, and it turns into one of those things, and it's kind of an old adage now, but it's Black Friday, the day where you trample people to death for free shit after you just celebrated what you should have been grateful for already having.
And at least you didn't have to have that evil day until the full good day was over.
Right.
Now part of your good day is now dedicated to the evil day. You don't even get your 24 hours of goodness, and then you go to 24 hours of badness. Right. You've now got 16 hours of goodness and 36 hours. I don't know. It's just not right.
And it turns out that the war on Christmas, that's not the only war that's going on right now.
There's not?
No, man. And no, it's not the war on terrorism either. It's the
your buddy.
No, not this.
No, that's not your friend.
There's also a war on the police, I've come to hear. And of course you can see the people waging war against that heroic police officer. They're unloading his quart-sized bottle of pepper spray on a bunch of people who pose absolutely no threat to him, because he probably is compensating for having a tiny little pig dick. Sorry, fuck that guy.
Easy. Oh, I know.
It's not all cops.
No, it's certainly not.
Only most of them.
But, the thing is that I think a lot of that stage too. I think there's a lot of, the rich want people to focus their anger on someone else besides
someone other than them.
Yeah, and here's the funniest thing. What better way to have blue collar citizens focus their anger not on bankers and not on the people who had to make them work on Christmas, but help them focus their anger against blue collar cops, who, by the way, cops aren't the sons of bankers. They're the sons of machinists and
other cops usually.
Well, yeah, but they're also the sons of blue collar workers, the working class.
Right.
So, there's a lot better ways that they could train them to handle things. But I think they like the fact that there's an adversarial relationship between the working class and the police force, because that way it takes people's minds off of the real oppressor. And that real oppressor is the bankers. Cops are, I'll say one thing, most cops, not only are most cops good, but most cops are what I would call good soldiers. In other words, they just follow orders. And if you say go bust heads, they bust heads. If you say just keep the peace, they keep the peace. And they just do whatever they're told. If you say pepper spray people sitting down peacefully, because there's a lot of protests where cops just kind of do crowd control and everything's fine. This one, he was told to spray him down, and so you know what I'm saying. They usually don't do things half cocked on their own.
True.
That's what I think.
But yeah, it is certainly, I think, manufactured for the most part. I don't know if you were here for the episode that we did about false flags. It was Adam that was on for this one.
Yeah, I saw it though. I actually watched it.
But there was one,
that was interesting.
Aside from the really big deal false flag events I'm not going to get into now, but among them were actual police officers inciting violence at peaceful protests, just to
get the ball rolling.
Yeah, to then justify more violence when people started, reacting.
I actually saw that happen to a lesser degree. It didn't take off, but it was kind of like maybe they were just testing the waters. But I went to a peace, an anti-Iraq, Afghanistan war in Hollywood and Vine. They've had several of them in the earlier 2000s, and this is like 2004 or 5 or 6, around there. They would have one once a year since 2003. And there was these 4 guys, and they all had these clean-cut haircuts. They were dressed in almost like they were like Brady Bunch kids. In other words, they were like caricatures, and they were these 4 white guys that were like between, say, 20 and 25, and they took this a stack of notebook paper, and everyone's kind of standing out in the street, and there's some, and there's like some guy speaking. And they all get down into a group, and they all say, "Fuck the police, fuck the police." And they were these weird. I mean, there's these clean cut guys, and they're all like in shape, and they have.
Did they have those piece of shit cop mustaches?
No,
also?
no. Well, some of them did.
Yeah.
And they had notebook paper, blank notebook paper, and one guy had a lighter, and they lit it. And they lit this fire, and they go, "Fuck the police, fuck the police." And me and this other guy that were there, we go, "Hey, you guys don't look like protesters. You guys look like the police." That's what I yelled out. And they looked at me, and my friend walked over and stepped on their paper and goes, "Everybody here likes the police. Everybody here likes the police." And people start saying that. Yeah, we all like the police. We all like the police, because everybody there did like the police. And these 4 guys kind of looked around like this, and the weirdest response was they got up and they walked away. And I was wondering if it's like...
Well, yeah, because it's kind of hard to do your job, which is beating protesters when they're all chanting how much they like you.
Yeah. And these 4 guys just walked away, and I couldn't help but to think, well, it looked like to me at the time, they were cops that were told to go there just to test the waters. Hey, we're there. If it happens, we're ready to go. If not, just go home. And these guys, some guys stepped on their notebook paper, which is the weirdest thing to light, too, by the way. This the ring notebook paper that you get from and then they just walked away, and they looked around like this. They went, like shrugged their shoulders, and they walked away.
Yeah,
So
you gotta go rake muck somewhere else.
yeah, you know.
But yeah, yeah, we're joking around about this a little bit.
But that's a false flag thing, I think.
Yeah,
And,
absolutely,
you know,
and
and
especially when the statistics show, and got a nifty little chart here. These are from over the last 150 years. It looks like
wow.
the annual U.S. firearm-related police fatalities. Okay, so you see the big spike is during Prohibition. That was
Yeah, you mess with someone's booze.
Well, yeah,
You're gonna get hurt.
You start you start sticking your pig snout where it doesn't belong, and things can get escalated. So there was a spike during Prohibition.
Then it went way down after Prohibition was.
Sure did, and it also has gone down a lot very recently, 25% even over the previous year, as you can see there.
It's going down.
Yeah, and the years aren't very specifically marked, but last year there were a little over 40 police deaths related to firearms. This year there were just over 30, and among those, so that's already 25% less. Among those, there was a suicide, a cop shooting himself in the head. So that's not civilians doing that.
Yeah.
And then there were two other ones that resulted from officers accidentally shooting each other because they're incompetent. So also not civilians doing this to police officers. So you have closer to a 30% reduction in firearm-related police fatalities just from last year to this year. There is no war on the police.
Yeah.
As much as they'd like to get all amped up and talk a bunch of shit about Quentin Tarantino because he said they should be held accountable for murdering innocent people whenever it is that happens. And here's another statistic. So 40 police, or 30, less than 30 police officers this year have died from gun-related violence. Over 1,000 civilians have been killed by police.
Has that been Has that been going up or down, or
it's been going way up?
Okay.
And now among these, it's about 1,050 now. Among them, a 6-year-old child shot multiple times at point-blank range.
Is that the one that was sitting in the car?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, so there's that. We just had the video released of the police shooting that 16-year-old kid to death. Now, among those 1,050 deaths, 200 of them were the people that were killed were unarmed. So these were unarmed people who had not yet been convicted of a crime, murdered by police that were unarmed. And a number of those shot in the back. So I ask you, who has waged war on who? If we have to call it that, it's certainly not civilians waging war on the police. It seems to be lopsidedly the other way around.
Yeah.
So
It's a terrible thing, and like I said, it's I think it's I don't want to sound like I'm a conspiratorialist, but I do think it's kind of a conspiracy. I mean, I think a lot of these guys are pumped up to go out there and do that, and I think it's a combination of things. I think sometimes they're pumped up to do that, and because I think like I said, sometimes the bankers need to have you focus your hate, because if you didn't have your weight of, because you feel that somebody in authority is oppressing you. And a banker would rather have you hate a cop in uniform than to hate him, because your mind would eventually go to him.
Because your monetary output for either of those is relatively minor.
Yeah, but you realize that who pays you is the CEOs of McDonald's or whatever. So eventually you would just gravitate to hating them.
You'd start
And
looking up the hill a little bit.
Yeah, you'd look at your own, who's your boss's boss, and but they don't want you to do that. So they want you to, when you're living in a crowded house and you're pissed off because you lost your house because some bank loaners took advantage of you. But now you're walking through a street. Well, if you get roughed up by a cop, you're going to be forgetting about the fact that some corrupt loan officer screwed you out of a house. Now you're thinking about, who's roughing you up right now. And so I think they purposely set that up as a scenario, and
Sure.
It's a terrible thing because it's always a divide and conquer thing, and then also the other thing I think certain things like the Kelly Thomas thing that happened in Fulton.
Sure.
Those cops, I can't imagine were sober. When you have that kind of a disconnect on reality, you're either on one of two drugs that does it really well. You're either on methamphetamine or you're on steroids. And those two drugs where this was, the guy's just standing there putting on the gloves, the other guys are showing up. That's not a nervous cop. That's not a guy who's kind of a rookie and he got nervous. He actually squeezes off a shot in a dark room and he actually kills a kid. That's not. That is just that's not the same thing. These guys were on something that had this focus and had this disconnect from reality that somehow this was going to be an okay thing. And I think that they need to maybe get more into drug testing like they do athletes. I think this is performance-enhancing drugs that went awry. I think it was steroids that went awry. I think if they had tested them right after this incident, just like they do athletes, I think something would have came out in a urine test or a blood test. And then just on the basis, just like you would a truck driver, you take them off duty, without a trial. You don't give a truck driver if he tests 30 and he gets into an accident, you don't give him a trial. You take him off. He can't drive until he.
And you also don't give him a paid vacation.
No.
Which is what they do to these people.
You take his keys away and you take his truck license away.
Unarmed people, they give them a paid vacation. And these problems are not insurmountable. These are not things that we have to accept. These are not problems that can only be solved through equal and opposite violent reaction.
No.
It's a matter of pull your head out of your ass, and realize that the things that you're being distracted by, and I know I say this a lot, but the things that you're being distracted by are not what you should be getting all distracted and amped up over. Think about the things in the world that are going on that you actually don't like. Do you like war? Do you like seeing homeless people on the street? Do you like seeing, servicemen not getting the services that they need?
Yeah.
Okay, then start raising a ruckus over that. But yeah, so there is a war on Christmas, but it does not take the form of a Starbucks cup.
No.
There is no war against the police. So all of you apologists out there saying, "Oh, Blue Lives Matter," while that is true because all lives matter, let's work on figuring out who the officers are that are not good and remove them from their position of authority. Like, you don't see the fire department, when a firebug gets in their ranks and he becomes a fireman because he wants to light something on fire, you don't see the firemen sticking up for him.
No.
And being like, no, that's our brother. They say, no, that guy is a fuckface, and he does not represent the high ideals of firefighters at large. And it's time to start demanding that police officers do the same thing.
Yeah. And also you want to reward the good police officers. This is an example of, it's even more glaring, say, I go back to the bankers. with this scandal that went on since 2007, where we didn't arrest any bankers, the scandal, which by the way was a few times larger than the savings and loan scandal of the late 80s, which by the way resulted in 2,000 arrests. This one should have arrested.
Not these days.
this should have resulted in 5,000 arrests at least. And with no arrests, the problem is now you have honest bankers, which a lot of them are, most of them are, but they're never going to get rewarded, and you're not going to get a promotion by being honest. Where throughout since Roosevelt's time to up until the late 80s, if you were an honest guy and you had a dishonest guy, and even though he was making more money than you, you cooled your jets because eventually he'd get arrested or fired.
Right.
Something would happen, and then you would get the promotion which you so rightly deserve by being an honest guy. Well, now you don't get that promotion because the only way you do get a promotion is if you get dirty.
Well, yeah, no, and that point is very well made.
And same thing with the police force. They should you want to promote up guys they're doing their job and they don't get high and they don't
murder innocent people for no reason.
Yeah, and they're like I said, they're sober, they're coming in and they're doing a great job, and they're so we want to make room for their promotions, and because they're hard work and their dedication,
and it's difficult too. It I don't know if I'd say
I'm not going to say turkey, but
it encourages people to be corrupt, right?
Yeah.
Well, why should I be honest?
Yeah. Because there's always fence sitters.
Yeah, like
and you need to you nudge him to the way of good. But if you don't have any repercussions,
you made me mad, and I'm a police officer. I can just murder you, and I get a paid vacation out of it. Oh, I'm a corrupt banker. Well,
I'm going to get more money.
I'm sorry. I'm an honest banker. I see the corrupt banker getting an $800 billion bailout. Why the fuck should I be honest?
Yeah.
And it becomes that thing where that level of corruption is strived for instead of being shunned.
That's right. That's right. And then it starts becoming systemic because, you look in certain countries in the third world, certain parts of Asia and stuff, that stuff is rampant.
Sure.
Corrupt bankers and corrupt cops. And because eventually it's become such a hodgepodge that you don't know who's honest anymore. And honest people are so shamed into thinking that it's shameful to be honest, where America is still pure enough that I believe that it's easy to go back simultaneously go back to a better time, but also go into a future time where we're shaming bad behavior and we're rewarding good behavior. But if we don't do this, we kind of let things keep running as they do, like not arresting the bankers and just kind of not getting rid of
not arresting murderous.
Cops. I mean, murderers. And eventually, we could devolve into like some of those other countries because where it's hard to discern. This is just worst case scenario, and hopefully shows like this can prevent things like that because we want a better America,
Yeah, absolutely. And that's another thing since you kind of broached the subject that I wanted to say also. Stop saying, "Well, it could be worse." Because it could be a hell of a lot worse.
It could always, things are always transient.
And, things could be like they are in Liberia, where there's not enough doctors to treat preventable illnesses.
Or Burma.
And you have people dying of, like, the flu or the cold. And, any of these places where the very basic necessities of life are not available to you. Let's not keep letting things degrade to the point where we actually get there.
Yeah.
It's time to start looking up. It's time to start saying, how can we make this better? You want to be the greatest country in the world anymore? Stop sticking up for these assholes. stop patronizing businesses that don't live up to your ideals of the way they treat their workers.
Yeah, I don't shop. I simply don't shop on Thanksgiving or Christmas. It's not that hard.
Yeah,
It's not that hard. And one time, I think it was a year ago, I had to go somewhere, and I was going to bring some fruit to this one, like a little get together. It was on Christmas evening, and I forgot to get it the day before. But I knew Pavilions was open, and I just got done lecturing my friend who was off earlier that afternoon, going to Smart and Final, and I told him, "Don't go there," blah 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 blah. And my friend, by the way, he's a conservative guy, and he lives in Burbank, and he normally is a guy who would talk a lot about like
the war on Christmas,
cups and things like that. And yet I said, and just a typical, and he also is one of those guys that gets outraged when he hears the manger story. That some city got, was told to take down a manger, but they stood up for. And I said, dude, you got to stand up. And he kind of goes, he shrugged his shoulders. So in the end, the war on thing was like just. Anyway, so I got upset. So I'm going home, and I said, I got to go to this thing tonight, and let me stop in Pavilions. I said, you know what? I can't do that. And I had some fruit at home, and thank God it was pretty fresh. And I went home, I picked up the fruit, and I went to the thing. But you know what? I told myself, even if I don't have good fruit at home, I can't go in today. I can't make a purchase on Christmas to Pavilions, who normally was closed, because throughout most of the decades, I wouldn't have been able to go in there at all anyway.
Yeah.
So, and I have to put my money where my mouth is, unlike my other buddy who wasn't able to put his money where his mouth is. He bitches and he moans. And then when it came down to him actually doing some footwork, which at least I was able to do, and not because I'm a great guy, but because it's easy footwork. I just don't shop for one day.
Yeah, not going in there is literally the least you can do. It requires less action than anything else.
That's right. It isn't like when I had to get in my car and drive down several years ago when they had to Hollywood and Vine and walk around with some friends and at the Peace Rally. That took way more work.
Right.
I just had to just not go in there and not purchase something. And yet I was helping, because if sales go down, the more they go down, one thing about bosses, there's two things that can make them stay closed on a holiday. One would be a law that says you'd have to be, unless you're doing something like running a hospital or something, or a police department or something. And two, if they ain't making money, that thing will be closed like that.
Yeah, the policies will change.
If they didn't make money, they would be closed like that. Because that costs money. Even a $9 an hour guy costs money.
Yeah, you have to do a certain amount of business to justify that. So stop justifying that. It's quite simple to do. Well, what can I do? Here's what you do. If you don't like seeing people work on the holidays, stop patronizing businesses who force their employees to work on the holidays. Very simple. If you don't like hearing about, a fifth of the people killed by police being unarmed, say something about it. Quit, saying, well, if you didn't break the law, you wouldn't have gotten shot. Stop it. You're better than that. We are better than that. Let's work on fixing some of these problems.
And also the elections are coming up. So in June there's the primaries.
We're gonna do some stuff on the candidates coming up.
Ooh, so they got some wild ones out there.
Oh my God, they're all pretty horrendous. There's only
when Ben Carson is acting nutty. Or when Ben Carson must be really nutty. There we go. That's what I'm trying to preface this. Is when a nut job like Donald Trump says, "Man, you're nutty."
Yeah. So it's like, whoa.
Yeah. When Donald Trump has to tell you to reel it in a bit, you're out there.
So it is. We haven't done a Fuckface of the week for a while. And I know I like that segment as well. And so we got a doozy for you guys. I mean, I suppose
is that your buddy?
I suppose he's not like.
Oh,
as,
there he is.
He's
a good-looking fella, though.
Yeah, no, he's got
a good-looking
he's
fella.
got that, that
Good
fake,
hair.
fake pearly white smile that probably, he used a lot
Good
of
hair
donation money from his parishioners.
He's got
to
that Southern gentleman
achieve.
hospitality.
But it is at this point in the show, ladies and gentlemen, after a little bit of time away from it, that we bring you a new fuckface of the week, and his name is Joel Osteen. Now, you might be familiar with Joel Osteen. He has a very large ministry, and he
Huge.
quotes a lot of scripture, and he has a giant mega church that is able, I believe it's in Texas, that fits like tens of thousands of people inside. And he says feel good things.
Yeah.
You go there and you probably leave feeling all pumped up and full of the loving light of Jesus or whatever. And that's these days it's not a it's
And
not
why
a,
don't you like him?
well, I don't like him because and
He
it's for
doesn't.
the,
He's not really anti-war, so that's not good for a
yeah, no, he
preacher.
doesn't
I never
really
liked that.
stand on any kind of principle that I appreciate. These days, I don't feel like you should feel good coming out of church anymore. I feel like you should be instructed based on the teachings of Jesus, right? If that's the church you happen to be going to, of how to be an active participant in the world and help fix some of the things that are wrong with it, so that we can all evolve and ascend. As we all know that,
And take care of the least among us. That's what he said in Matthew. You got to take care of the least among us, or you can't get the kingdom. And yet, that's the message that always seems to get lost.
And I'm sure Mr. Osteen says that also, but he's certainly not living any portion of that truth. This is a person who is worth $40 million.
Okay.
He has a televised ministry. He has a gigantic megachurch in Texas that people go to and donate money to. And he has a palatial, I wasn't able to find a picture of it, but he has a palatial estate, like acres and acres and acres of land, and just a massive house that him and his wife couldn't possibly
Use every bathroom.
Christen every room in. Well, I mean, I'm sure over time they could, but it's certainly not in accordance with the teachings that he is espousing. If you're worth $40 million and you're flying around in a private Gulfstream, super rich business jet, you're not using that money appropriately. And I don't know, maybe you could help make the world a better place with that $40 million. You certainly could try. Maybe if instead of having a mega church, maybe if you built the Lord a mega homeless shelter and tried to house 10,000 homeless people instead of just putting 10,000 asses in seats listening to your fuckface mouth spew nonsense. It might help. I don't know. It certainly hasn't been tried yet. Maybe we could see how that works.
He's rubbed you the wrong way.
Well, anyone rubs me the wrong way who has that kind of wealth and espouses the faith that they do, and pretty much acts against it.
And by the way, we don't hear him speak out about why do people have to work on Thanksgiving night. Those are, a lot of his parishioners, by the way, if there's 10,000 people going in that auditorium, and I've seen that pictures of that auditorium, you've had them up here before.
Yeah, it's massive.
Yeah, at least several thousand of those parishioners of his directly, not just some other minister, have to work on Thanksgiving night. Are going to have to show up.
Assuredly. I mean,
and in some retail dump in the bowels of Texas, which are worse than the bowels of California, that's for sure.
Possibly.
Sorry for our Texas affiliates down there, but anyway, you don't hear him talk about, hey, that's not right, and blah blah. And then he never advises any of his parishioners, hey, don't go shopping on Thanksgiving evening. I mean, unless you're getting some kind of formula that's important for your kid or something, don't be going into.
It basically boils down to this. Fellas,
he's a hypocrite.
He's most certainly a hypocrite. But if the if the message, right, if the spirituality that you're going out and looking for, and you should, like, go out and seek these things, if but ask yourself, is this person challenging me to make a difference in the world, or do I just kind of feel warm and fuzzy and accepted afterwards? Then you're not helping. So let's do something different next time. Happy Thanksgiving to you all. Figure out what you're grateful for and cherish it. I want to thank Dirk Beecham once again for coming on and helping me get this latest of the world's problems solved, I think, for once and for all. And wherever you're going, get there safe. Take care, everyone.